Welcome everyone, Arcblight here, and I've got another build guide video for you. In this one, I'll be going over my Void Knight Autobomber, aka the walking simulator. If this video helped you out, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel for more guides, and let's get into it. So starting off, to use this character, I usually use the autocast setup. If you don't know how to do the autocast, I have a video link for that, and I'll leave it in the description below. Also down in the description, I'll leave the build planner for the Void Knight Autobomber, and I'll also have a very simplified loot filter for you. So starting off, let's set up the autocast, which will autocast the Devouring Orbs and Anomaly. Showing the damage off on the dummy here. It doesn't do too bad, especially when it crits. A lot of the maps that I've been doing, you basically just walk through and it kills everything around you. I'll have some gameplay footage of that at the end of the video. And then I also use Abyssal Echoes to do extra damage, and that'll do some good damage over time as well. And then for my main click cast ability, I use Smite, which I have it set up to do 0 mana cost, and it costs a little bit of life. But the setup also gives back some life and some mana, so it's actually pretty useful to get your mana back, and you don't even have to worry about the life cost. This build has been doing excellent in pretty much every monolith run that I've done. I've even fought Jura level 4, and I'm pretty sure I can beat her if I get the mechanics down right. It's just a long, drawn-out fight because I'm not doing significantly high damage to her. But other than that, it can pretty much do any of the content you're looking to do. And it's nice to have as like a casual playstyle that you can just run around, you don't have to worry about dying quite as much as other builds, and you do pretty decent damage. Let's go over the skills that we have. The Devouring Orb has 22 points in it, and that's just because I have a Devouring Orb skill bonus on my armor set. But it's not super required, it just helps out a little bit. So starting off with Smite, I use this as my single target attack that helps get me mana back whenever I need it. It also helps do pretty decent damage against big bosses and everything like that, so it's a nice ability to have in your back pocket. With these, I did 3 points in Pillars of Light so that it can double cast every now and then while I'm casting it. I put 5 in Sacrifice so that it does more damage, but it also costs more health instead of mana. Then I put 3 in Atonement so that the health cost of casting the spell is lowered, so it's not that big of a deal to worry about. Then I put 4 in Deep Impact, which adds to the critical multiplier, and then 5 in Conviction to get more of the base crit chance. But it also lowers the cast speed, which is not a big deal, especially when you have the double casts that are triggering. Then over to Devouring Orb. So this can move around a little bit. Some people don't put any in Extinction, which gives a damage bonus for when it deals direct hits to enemies. And then they'll usually boost up either more into Dark Torrent, more into Riftcaller. But you can pretty much do whatever you're feeling good about with this build. But the ones that I decided to go with, I put 1 in Void Adept to get over, put 1 in Hollow Orb to also get over, put 1 in Abyssal Emission to get over, so I can do 3 in the Dark Torrent. This will fire off Abyssal Orbs more frequently with Devouring Orbs, which will basically seek out and hit enemies. Then I put 4 in Riftcaller so that I get more Void Penetration. I'm still debating if I want to take any points out elsewhere to get this maxed out. And then I have 4 in World Rot, so that the duration of the Devouring Orbs and the Time Rot chance increase. Then down here, I put 1 in Dark Moon, so that the Devouring Orbs will orbit around you now. Then I put 1 in Abyssal Rush, just so I could get down, and put 1 in Cosmic Impact, which will up the Void damage. And then I put 5 in Extinction to get the overall damage increase. Then over to Anomaly, which is the other autocast ability we have going on with Devouring Orbs. So I put 1 in Void Touch, which increases the Time Rot chance on its return. 1 into Time Bubble. 2 into Manipulation to get more attack and cast speed. 4 into Time Eater so that we get some life leech while we're using our abilities. This is basically invaluable with your build. This will help keep you alive a lot longer with everything that you're doing. And then 4 over to Void Maw, which increases how much of a health leech you get from your abilities. Then I went over and put 4 in Temporal Mastery so that the duration of the time bubble lasts longer. And then I put 1 in Time Lord so that it's cast on me. So it creates a bubble basically right around my character. It increases the mana cost, but it's nothing significant. And then I put 1 in Lingering Memory so that it persists a little bit longer. And then 2 in Decimation to increase the crit chance in general while I have the bubble going on around me. Then over with Sigils of Hope, you'll have to put a few points in Paladin so that you can actually gain access to this, but this can help boost your defenses and your damage when you have it active. This is one of the abilities that I'll boost up periodically as I'm playing, but I don't have it set on autocast. So I went over and I put 5 in Iron Sigils so that we get more armor for each active sigil, and with this we'll have 4 active sigils in total, so that'll boost it up quite a bit. Then we have 5 in Enduring Hope to increase the duration of them, and then 1 in Tetragram so that we add 1 to the maximum sigils, giving us 4. Then I put 4 in Empowering Sigils so that the damage granted for every active sigil is increased by 24%. 1 in Last Wish so we have a chance to summon sigils on kills. 3 into Decree of Flame so that it does more fire damage. Get over to Sigils of Despair so that fire damage is actually turned into void damage. So that will boost everything we have going on for each active sigil. And then over in Abyssal Echoes, I went over and put 2 in Deep Expanse, increases the area, but we just wanted to get over to do Vorpal Explosion, which increases the damage but makes it so it doesn't chain anymore. 1 over in Spreading Chaos so that it'll spread Abyssal Decay over to 4 enemies. And then 1 in Overwhelming Doom, which will increase the spreading distance and it'll add 2 more enemies to that list. Then we put 1 in Screaming Rifts, so that we can get over and put 2 in Shrieking Echoes, which grants us additional Abyssal Echoes per cast. Then I went over and I put 5 in Vorpal Reverberation, which increases the spell void damage. And then 5 in Turbulence, which increases the duration of Abyssal Decay, which will help with the damage over time. Then I went down and I put 2 in Embrace the Darkness, so that it buffs the damage over time and the attack speed while you have the buff of Nether Coating. That basically covers all the skills, so let's go over to our passive tree. So with passive skills, there's a bit of versatility here. You can probably mix it up and still find success, but I'm going to show you what setup has worked for me so far. So starting off in the Sentinel base class tree, I have 8 in Fearless, 1 in Gladiator. I didn't put any more in this because we don't get any additional block chance percentage for each point we put in there, so I figured 1 point is good enough for that. 5 points in Armorclad, 1 point in Relentless just to get a little bit more damage and stun avoidance, but mainly so that we get up to the 20 points so that we can go over and put points in Void Knight and so on. And then I put 5 in Time and Faith because I'm using Smite in this build, and having the mana gain primarily helps a lot with keeping the build going, especially in a big singular boss fight. You might struggle with a little bit of mana there. This can help that out. And then over in Void Knight, I put 10 in Abyssal Endurance, 6 in Temporal Corruption, 8 in Void Bolts, so we get more spell void damage with that, 6 in World Eater so that we get some more life leech out of it for more survivability, 1 in Void Corruption, so we get a little bit more of the crit multiplier per point spent in Void Knight skills in general, 5 in Renouncement for more vitality. A big thing with this build is you want to stack as much vitality as you can because it gives you health but also flat void damage. 5 in Echoing Strikes, so that we have a higher chance of echoing. 10 in Eternal Form, so that we get as much vitality as possible and increased health. This is very, very nice for this build. I have 15 in Dread to get more void damage and move speed. 1 in Avatar of Regret for an additional echo chance. And 3 in Time Legion. Over in Forge Guard, I put 1 in Steel Aegis to help more with using a shield and having block chance. Basically the same reason as we went and put 1 into Gladiator. And then in Paladin, I had to put 15 points in here so that we could get to Sigils of Hope to have that on our skill bar. So in this, I put 8 in Defiance to get more elemental resistances to help round out everything. 1 into Honor to also help with the block chance. 1 into Valor to give us a little bit of life, but also so it'll allow us to get over to Heavenfire, so we get more adaptive spell damage while we're using a shield. This helps a lot with all of our void spell damage. I might actually put a few more points into this as well, just so I can get more damage with the build. But yeah, that's basically what I did with my passives, so let's go on and move over to our gear. So with gear, I got lucky over time with playing this build, and I got Ravenous Void, and I got a Bastion of Honor that I tried to turn into a pretty decent legendary. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty good. Could definitely be worse. These 2 items are not required for this build to function. They help quite a bit, but it's more of something to strive for later, but it's not required to start off with everything here. So with the gear, I'm using a Dragonhorn wand, so that way I get adaptive spell damage to boost my void damage, increases my cast speed so my auto casting happens a little bit faster, and reduces the overall spell cost of a lot of my abilities. With this, I stacked crit strike multiplier, spell critical strike chance for the void abilities we're using, and then I just threw on increased stun and slow on hit. Basically, a lot of different things can work in there, but with wands, those were what I decided to go with. With the ring, you want to try to get a coral ring that helps out. I was using 2 coral rings for a long time until I decided to switch over and use a Siphon of Anguish. That helps a lot with leeching health as well. But basically with the coral ring, you want to get this with a high vitality roll on it, and then preferably try to get some spell damage or void damage. And then with a lot of your suffixes, you basically want to go for whatever resistances you're lacking in. And if you have all of your resistances, then I would go with health. So a lot of these are health based, where a lot of my resistances are finally in a good place, but you'll still see that there's some resistances on other things. With the belt, I just went with void damage and whatever else worked well with that. And then with the boots, I got lucky with a exalted vitality, which again is really good for this build. And then I went with critical strike avoidance and increased health along with the movement speed. With the gloves, I usually go with increased cast speed gloves. Usually helps with the auto casting of abilities and everything like that. And I used those up until I had Ravenous Void. With the relic, I use Witch's Tainted Effigy because it gave flat spell void damage to the build. And then with that, I also just stacked more spell critical strike chance and void damage, and then whatever resistances I needed. With this shield, I got a pretty decent exalted shield. I just went for as much block as I could get, and then also health and armor. And then with the amulet, I went with a bone amulet so that I could increase my resistances as well. And I went with void penetration to help boost all of the damage overall, and then increased void damage. And then with the helmet and armor, I went with critical strike avoidance on the base item types to try to help it, so that just adds more survivability to my build. And then with both, I have vitality. With the helmet, I threw on devouring orb so I could get a couple more skill points with that, and it also increases void damage. And with the armor, I just went with increased void damage and plus 10 flat spell void damage to boost everything a little bit, and then I got 12 vitality and then some health. You can mix and match whatever works for you, but the biggest thing I want to stress is just try to get things that boost your vitality, and then obviously whatever works for boosting your damage, which is either void damage, spell damage, whatever, and then round out your resistances. With idols, a lot of the idols are, again, getting really lucky. I think with every build that I do, I can't stress enough that the idols, you have things you're going for, but whether or not you get a good one is all about luck and time invested. So with what I was doing is I boosted Abyssal Decay duration. That's the damage over time that comes from Abyssal Echoes and probably some of the other things within Devouring Orb. Spiteful Adorn, I got this for the increased void damage whenever an ability echoes, but also the increased health. Another Abyssal Decay duration, and then 19% chance to apply Time Rot on hit. And then Vitality and void damage, health and armor, health and mana, health in general, vitality, and some resistances to help round those out. But yeah, with the idols too, any extra spots you can fill with vitality is going to be helpful, and then anything else to help with your void damage or your Abyssal Decay durations will definitely help out a lot as well. So with blessings, a lot of this is whatever you think works well for your build and whatever you get lucky with. So I got increased unique drop rate because I feel like that's always good for any build. The more uniques you can find with better rolls on them, the better. I was striving to get void penetration out of the Black Sun monolith, but so far I haven't gotten lucky with it, so I've just been going with the spell damage leached as health. Another good one you could go for is crit strike avoidance out of the Reign of Dragons monolith. I don't think I got lucky with that as of yet. And with this particular build setup, if you have like the armor and the helmet that I have, my critical strike avoidance is actually really high, so I don't really need to go for that blessing, but it might help out your build a lot if you need some more crit strike avoidance. That pretty much covers the gist of this Void Knight Autobomber. I'll leave you with some gameplay so you can see it in action. Remember that if you enjoy the content here, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you want some future content from me, and if you want to catch me live, feel free to go over to twitch.tv/Arcblight. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have great luck with all the drops in your future. Have a good one.